It will shock you how many people got into this year without a plan. It will shock you how many fathers led their children, their families into 2021 without a written down plan. And it will shock you how many business owners have gotten into 2021 without a written down plan that they went through with their employees. And so people don't plan for several reasons. Number one, they have planned before and the plan didn't happen. So they feel it's a useless activity. It doesn't matter, planning, because at the end of it, que sera, sera, and that's a very terrible way to live. People also don't plan. Basically, people don't plan because they haven't had the results or, something to show for the planning that they have done in the past. So they quit planning altogether. And so they just face the year and do things as they come. But plans fail for several reasons. And I'll give you just 2 reasons why plans don't succeed. This is so good, what I'm about to tell you now. In fact, if this were a CD or a DVD, I'll buy this DVD. But subscribe to my YouTube channel because you're going to get more than you ever bargained for this year on my YouTube channel and on my Instagram handle and also on LinkedIn. So follow right now for the kind of things I'm going to tell you now. So plans fail for several reasons, but I'll give you 2. Number 1, plans don't work out because the process by which that planning happened was flawed. You see, because if you plan from a good head, you're going to get good plans. But if you plan from a flawed thinking and a flawed process, that plan is not going to happen. So number 1 reason why plans failed is that the process by which that plan or those decisions were arrived at were flawed by themselves. Second reason that plans don't work out is that when people plan, they fail to realize that the skills for planning are very, very different from the skills you require for executing, because a good plan has 2 parts. There's the plan itself, and secondly, there is the execution. And so the execution has to be built into the plan. That's what so many people do. And it's for the same reason that transformation projects fail. McKinsey once said that about 70% of all transformation efforts fail. And as I've worked with many clients, dozens of clients and businesses over the world, big businesses, medium-sized businesses, small businesses around the continent, I have discovered that the problem, the reason that many strategies never get done is that people create strategies without building into them its execution, the mechanism for making those strategies happen. And then all my clients, including all of you listening to this, you know that whenever I come to work with you, I focus first on the execution in your company, because what's the use creating all those amazing strategies and then they never get executed because your organization lacks the execution competencies. So the skills for planning are very different from the skills that you use for executing it, for implementation. Let me give you some examples. Planning is analysis oriented. Okay, so in planning, you do a lot of data gathering, examining data, and then analyzing them. Planning requires a lot of imagination and an ability to visualize the future. That's a key competence, a key skill for planning. That ability to visualize the future, because it's that visualization, that picture of the future that you have that allows you to create plans, to create options and alternatives for making the most of that future, for winning in the future. On the other hand, execution or implementation is not analysis heavy. I think it was Napoleon Bonaparte, the great general, who once told his military officers, he said, when it is time for planning, by all means plan. But when you are out there in the battlefield, fight. That's not the time for planning. So execution is actually focused more on activities, on actually getting things done. And it requires a different set of competencies. Example, you are going to need to invest a lot of emotional intelligence when it comes to executing in your organization, because you're going to need a lot of grit. You're going to need, it's not that you're not going to do analysis when you're executing, but the focus of execution and implementation is not analysis. It's not analysis. But you're going to be getting feedback that you analyze, but it's focused on action, on getting things done. So you're going to need a lot of emotional intelligence, a lot of grit. You're going to need a lot of the skill, interpersonal skills, being able to cooperate with other people to make that plan happen. So the skills for planning are not exactly the same skills for executing. That's why plans fail. So there are many different planning models. So I said that the first reason that plans fail is that the process by which, or the model by which that plan was arrived at was flawed. And so there are many very good planning models and processes that people have used over the years. And I think perhaps the most popular is the process that starts with problem identification, a problem statement. You define what the problem is. You gather data and analyze the data, and then you come up with a list of alternatives, options on solving this problem, and then you select one option based on a couple of criteria that have been predetermined that would enhance success. And then you detail out this option that you have chosen, and then you build the activities, the things that have to happen to make that option work. Then you build in a feedback mechanism that as you execute, you'll be taking some feedback that will allow you to optimize that plan. So that's one, and it works well. But I have simplified planning, both for individuals, for families, for organizations, by creating very simple model that I follow all the time. And my family has already created our own plan, and then for my business, we already have a plan. And so that basic process is, number one, let's say you're planning, for your family. You ask that question, what would 2021 cost me? What would it cost? If you're a business, you're asking the questions, what results, what outcomes do we want in 2021? And what would it cost? Okay, the resources that are going to be needed, the kind of partnerships, the kind of finances that are going to be needed to make it happen. And then the second part of that model is, how will we fund it? How will we make it happen? Okay, and then you break down that into a series of activities, specific measurable activities. So in my family, for instance, everybody says, when you build your plan, we ask, how do you know when you've arrived there? What is the measurement mechanism that will allow you know that you've arrived there, and that will provide you the kind of feedback you need, the feedback loop you need to make continuous improvement every day in the year until you get that result. Okay? And then the next thing, you get to action. And then, how do I build, the grit? How do I build the grit, the initiative, the persuasion, the ability to develop cooperation with other people? Because that your plan, if it's a very good plan, is definitely going to need the cooperation of other people to make it happen. So how do I build that network? How do I build that competency of making these things happen? So in summary, don't step into the next 24 hours without creating a plan for 2021. Because the thing is, if you plan for nothing, you will hit it. That is nothing. And the most frightening one is that if you don't have a plan for your life or for your business, other people will have a plan for you. And I can assure you, nobody can make a better plan, because nobody loves you more than you love yourself, except God, of course. And whatever happens, keep showing up, because you have no idea what's coming your way next. And I'll talk to you very soon.